The hammer was gone. Thor woke up, reaching for it the way he did every morning, and his hand found nothing but cold air. He sat up. He looked left. He looked right. He threw back the blankets and checked under the bed. Nothing. Mjolnir, the most powerful hammer in all the 9 worlds, the weapon that could flatten mountains and call down lightning from the sky, was simply gone. Thor stood in the middle of his chamber, his red hair wild from sleep, his face going through about 15 different emotions at once. Confusion, disbelief, panic, and then rage. Loki! Now, to be fair, it wasn't Loki this time. Loki, the trickster god, Thor's sort of friend and full-time headache, was lounging by the fire when Thor came storming in, and even he looked genuinely surprised when Thor explained what had happened. "Your hammer is gone?" Loki repeated slowly. "My hammer is gone," Thor confirmed. Loki was quiet for a moment. Then, because he couldn't help himself, "How does someone lose a hammer that size?" Thor's eyes narrowed. "Help me find it," he said, in a voice that suggested this wasn't really a request. Loki sighed and stood up. "Fine, but you owe me." They didn't have to search for long. Word came quickly, the way bad news always does, from a frost giant named Thrim, who ruled a frozen kingdom far beyond the edges of Asgard. His message was simple and deeply annoying. "I have your hammer," Thrim said, with the kind of smug satisfaction only someone holding someone else's most prized possession can manage. "I've buried it 8 miles underground where no one will ever find it. And I'll only give it back on one condition." Thor crossed his arms. "What condition?" "I want a bride," Thrim said. "Specifically, I want the goddess Freya. Send her to me as my wife, and you'll have your hammer back." Thor turned to look at Loki. Loki turned to look at Thor. Neither of them said anything for a long moment. "We're not giving him Freya," Thor said finally. "Obviously not," Loki agreed. "So what do we do?" Loki's eyes went very slowly to Thor. A smile, the kind that never meant anything good, crept across his face. "I have an idea," he said. "You're not going to like it." He was right. Thor did not like it. "Absolutely not," Thor said, staring at the wedding dress Loki was holding up with entirely too much enthusiasm. "It's the only way," Loki said. "I am the god of thunder. I have fought dragons. I have wrestled giants. I once held up the sky with my bare hands." "And now you're going to wear a dress?" Loki said cheerfully. "Funny how life works out." The plan, as Loki explained it, was this. Thor would disguise himself as Freya. He would go to Thrim's kingdom pretending to be the bride, and when Thrim brought out the hammer to seal the wedding, because that was the tradition, presenting the bride with the hammer as a blessing, Thor would grab it and, well, that would be the end of that. It was either brilliant or ridiculous. Possibly both. Thor looked at the dress for a very long time. Then he put it on. Getting into Thrim's kingdom was surprisingly easy. Thrim, it turned out, was so excited about his bride arriving that he hadn't really thought too hard about the details. He had prepared a grand feast, decorated his hall with ice sculptures and frozen flowers, and lined up all his frost giant guests in their finest furs. Thor sat at the head of the table, veil over his face, Loki beside him playing the role of helpful bridesmaid with deeply suspicious levels of enjoyment. Things started well enough. Then Thor ate an entire ox and 8 whole salmon and most of the desserts. Thrim stared from across the table. "She has quite an appetite," he said carefully. "She hasn't eaten in days," Loki said smoothly without missing a beat. "So nervous about the wedding, you know how brides are." Thrim nodded slowly. This seemed reasonable. Thor, to his credit, was trying very hard. He sat up straight. He folded his hands in his lap. He did not yell or flex or challenge anyone to an arm wrestling match, which honestly took enormous self-control. But then Thrim, feeling romantic, leaned forward and tried to peek under Thor's veil. What he saw was 2 eyes blazing like lightning bolts, practically burning holes through the fabric. Thrim jumped back. "Her eyes," he whispered. "They're like fire." "She hasn't slept," Loki said, completely unbothered. 8 days awake, thinking about nothing but this wedding. She's absolutely devoted, Thrim. Thrim, who was clearly not the sharpest icicle on the roof, nodded again and decided this made perfect sense. The moment came. As was the tradition, Thrim called for Mjolnir to be brought out and placed in the bride's lap as a wedding blessing. 2 giants carried it in on a stone platform. Even wrapped in cloth, it hummed with power, like thunder trapped in metal waiting to get out. They set it down in front of Thor. Thor's hand closed around the handle, and something changed in the room immediately. The temperature dropped. The candles flickered. Every giant at the table went very, very still, the way animals go when they sense a storm is coming. Thor stood up slowly. The veil came off. "Hello, Thrim," Thor said. What followed was not a long fight. It was, however, a very loud one. When it was over, Thor walked out of the ruins of Thrim's hall with Mjolnir resting on his shoulder, his wedding dress in absolutely no condition to be returned, and a look of deep personal satisfaction on his face. Loki walked beside him, smoothing his bridesmaid's dress and trying very hard not to laugh. "Not a word," Thor said. "I wasn't gonna say anything," Loki said. A pause. "You were an excellent bride." Thor closed his eyes. "I will throw you into the sun." Emotionally, though, you really committed to the role. Thor walked faster. Loki jogged to keep up, grinning from ear to ear. Above them, the sky cracked open with lightning, half fury, half something that, if you squinted, looked almost like laughter. And Mjolnir was home. The end. Wow, okay, what did we think of that, everyone? That was super comedic, and I think really tells you that when you work together with one of your friends, you really can overcome many an obstacle. I think Thor would have flown off the handle if it weren't for Loki kind of bringing him down back to earth and kind of joking around, even though he's pretending that he doesn't like it. I think this story really encapsulates the power of friendship and what you can achieve. I mean, they've got Mjolnir back in Thor's hands, and that would definitely never have happened if it weren't for Loki and his brilliant idea, which just goes to show working together is so much better than working on your own. I hope you enjoyed this story, everyone. If you did enjoy it, please give us a little like and subscribe to our channel to see more.